Hi guys, in this video I'm just going to be taking you through a process that I use. Basically this is me drawing the nose from the front view. This isn't really going to be a step-by-step because I've sped it up far too much for that, although depending on how popular this video gets, if people do want a step-by-step I could do that. It's just it will be a longer video, but I thought this is still still helpful to some people if they're struggling with a nose. Seeing the process that I use, I mean, you can see here that I'm starting with some really basic shapes, and they don't particularly look that good quality. They're not perfect lines or anything because these are just guidelines, so it doesn't really matter too much about that. I do show at the end though, I do sort of redraw them shapes just to one side so that you can see exactly the sort of shapes I stick with. But please do remember that everyone's nose is different, so if you're drawing a nose, it's going to turn out different depending on who you're drawing. This is basically me trying to draw it without reference, which at first you're probably best getting a photo with someone, drawing that a few times, getting good at that, getting used to where things are, maybe even draw from life, and then work your way up to drawing without, like I'm doing here. So I switched to the soft brush to sort of blend in the shapes, blend in the shading, sorry, because the main thing to create a nose, a lot of it is just about the form and the lighting. So hopefully you can use what I've done here as a sort of guidelines, I guess. I do block in things such as, you can see I've sort of put in the area where eyes would be, and I think I maybe draw a line or something to show where the mouth would be, but I don't spend too much time on that. I don't really go into detail on that because this is specifically about the nose, so it really is just a case of getting in the basic shapes, putting in some really basic shading. I mean, I started off using the pencil tool on this, and then it was quicker to switch to the soft edge brush and sort of just add more and more shading, and maybe flip the canvas, see what looks right, see what looks wrong. Flipping the canvas sort of helps you realise what you've done wrong, and makes it more visible, and go in, add more shading, more highlights, whatever it needs. So once you've got the shading to where you want it, like here, this is pretty much how I wanted it shaded for the video. I start adding in some highlights just with a soft brush again. I start off maybe a little bit more subtle, put a bit more pressure down until I get sort of the effect I want. That's from the reflective light that coming from the sort of top side of the mouth, reflecting back up at the nose. So that's the sort of lighting you get. Right here, I'm sort of trying to create a skin texture. So I add a new layer above this and use a really dotted brush on the multiply layer. I think I switch it to multiply after anyway. And once you've sort of got the effect that you want, you need to set the layer opacity to pretty low. I think I have mine roughly on about 10 on this one, so that's really low. You do need to be watching this in high quality to be able to actually make out what I'm talking about here. So if you're watching this in a low quality, then you probably won't actually be able to see this. But then I add another layer, doing the same thing again, just putting dotted bits all over, but using a brighter colour, a lighter colour, or just use a white, and put this on a lighten layer. And I did sort of remove some bits from it, but pretty much kept it same. I added one more extra lighten layer just to put on some more highlights so that I could set this layer not quite as low opacity, but I'm still playing around with skin textures as well. This is me sort of going over the shapes now. It's two sort of parallel lines sort of pulled together in the middle is what I start with, then a circle for the sort of tip of the nose, and then I move on to drawing the nostril, starting in the middle and going out to the side. I mean, you can see it's not a very good drawing, and it takes me several attempts to actually do the nostrils because I always mess them up. If I do one, I can't get the other to look the same. But as poor as that looks, that is what you start with. Once you start adding some shading to it, it really helps it. Just use these as guidelines. This shape that I'm doing here now, this is one that I think is quite important. If you look at the one I've done, the realistic nose to the left, you sort of wouldn't pick up on that shape, but when you're drawing it, I like to use this shape. I think it makes noses look really good to draw. I sort of imagine the shape, I don't really know how to describe it, but maybe say a shield like shape, but I don't know, maybe that's just me. And as I say, everyone's nose shape is different, so not everyone's going to have that, but that's just how I like to draw them. And so yeah, that's pretty much it. Hopefully this helps you in some shape or form. If you do like my video, please subscribe to my channel, or check out my DeviantArt page or Facebook or Twitter. Thanks guys.